Joining me this week is Alex Crook. There he is there, Angelina Kelly and Athletics Carl Anka. They're all in there, they're all in situ, they're all ready to go because it has been a fantastic week. So let's kick off with the thrashing that we gave Everton on Sunday. Braces for both Marcus Rashford and Joshua Zirkzee, and also Ruben Amorim with his first Premier League win. Carl, we'll start off with you, mate. Listen, are we witnessing the classic new manager bounce, or are we seeing, you know, that Amorim is developing these players this early on?
I think you saw a confidence team get an early goal, remember how to play football, and then eventually turn the screw on a team that they're just a lot better than. The first 25 minutes at Old Trafford, you saw Amorim in two modes. One, where he sort of got his hands in the air, bemoaning at United losing possession cheaply.
He was not happy.
And the other mode is him doing a sort of Bielsa or Pochettino-esque squat, where he's looking for passing angles. You're going to see that a lot of times at Old Trafford, I think. I was genuinely watching that first 25, 30 minutes, thinking Amorim might make a triple sub at half-time. But then you get the goal, a set-piece goal, one that apparently was devised by Carl Fernandes, the assistant manager. And after the races, everyone realised how good Diallo is once again.
I mean, onto that, Crookie. Diallo, Carl just spoke about it there. He seems to be getting better and better each week. Are we witnessing the start of a huge Man United career for him? Is he already one of our most important players?
I think we are. And actually, I think we started to witness that at the end of last season with that dramatic goal he scored against Liverpool in the FA Cup quarter-final. You could see what it meant to him. I interviewed him before the Cup final. I found him a very humble, a very down-to-earth, a very dedicated professional. And I thought then, you know, this is a guy that maybe United can build the team around. We know that there are talks underway about a new contract. They simply have to get him locked down. And it makes it even more baffling when you see that the type of performances that he's been producing, that Erik ten Hag refused to use him, didn't he, towards the end of his tenure. He picked Mazraoui in the number 10 role instead. He's obviously playing a different role under Ruben Amorim as one of those attacking wing-backs. But he's such a good professional, such a good athlete, that he can basically play anywhere. And I think if United are to get any success at Arsenal in midweek, then he will be central to it.
Yeah, he will. I have to say, like, I don't want to come down too hard on Erik ten Hag. We're post that now. But there needs to be an investigation into some crimes against football. Like, honestly, the fact...
Steady on.
Well, yeah, probably a bit strong. But, like, I don't understand how he kept him out for so long. Then Ahmad was showing signs, knocking on the door, and it almost felt like he couldn't wait to get Garnacho back in there as well. And it's just a real shame we haven't seen more of him. The fans were starting to see what a naturally beautiful footballer he is. And it just proves that actually he's able to take on instructions, he's able to adapt his game to what Ruben Amorim's asking him to do. And you know what the biggest thing I like about Ahmad is? It's not just the individual talent, because he has bags of that. It's the selflessness. You know, when he gets into the right positions, when he can see the back pages and all the social media memes all the social media clips be about him getting a goal, he's like, no, the right thing to do is to give the right weight of pass and just pass it to Zirkzee so he can score. He's just a really selfless character. Another player I want to talk about, actually, guys, especially to you, Angelina, is about Joshua Zirkzee, because you, as many others have been, you know, you guys at home as well, have been demanding a lot more from him. It's been a tough start for his Manchester United career. We all know that. It seems like an absolute decade ago already since that Fulham goal he scored on the opening day. But are we starting to see a little bit more confidence from him? 2 goals from him, a good performance from him.
Yep.
Does Ruben Amorim's style suit him more?
I think it does. I mean, you look, when he was in the starting 11, I was extremely shocked. I did not expect it. But he looked so confident. And he, you know, how many times have we seen him where he's really looked like he's lacking pace? Like I say, the confidence. So to see him get a full game and to do well, that's all that fans wanted to see. I think that it does suit him, but I think overall what we're seeing here is that he is under, and you know, like we said, we don't want to hate on Ten Hag too much, but I think he is simply being coached by a better coach. You know, Ruben Amorim's spoken a lot about how he likes to figure out players, how all players are individuals, and he said it doesn't take me that long to figure somebody out. I know that he's spoken in a recent interview about how he himself has had a psychologist, how he's aware of things like that. And I think what we're seeing is somebody who understands man management a lot more, is a lot more charismatic. Because, I mean, even us, if you're saying to me, you've got Ruben Amorim and Erik ten Hag, who are you going to want to play more for? And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I think Ruben Amorim does win that. But I think what we saw from Zirkzee, those goals that he scored a couple of weeks ago, you'd have your head in your hands because you would have missed them. So I think to see that, that's all that United fans wanted to see, was just to see some progression, to see that where he fits. And I think that he does fit in that position. I don't know if I would start him for the Arsenal game because I do think the pace is still lacking. Yeah. But overall, I was really impressed with him. And like I say, if you'd have told me a couple of weeks ago that he'd have scored 2 goals, I would have laughed in your face. And I also feel like, I don't know if it was me or Crookie, or it might have been both
Probably
of us,
both of you, to be fair.
that were maybe saying, get rid of him in January.
Jeez, you see what I have to deal with, Carl? This is what's going on here, Carl.
Have I made that? I feel like we might have said that.
Crookie and you probably did say that. Yeah, bit harsh. But they're scathing, Carl. They really, really are. For you, Carl, I want to talk about Bruno Fernandes, actually, because 2 more assists for him. I think there were some worries in the fan base, and especially particularly online, that since he signed that new contract, what's gone on here? You know, is he going down a deep, dark place? But, you know, since Erik ten Hag's left, 4 games under Ruud van Nistelrooy, he's got back in the goals and the assists, and more to follow under Ruben Amorim. Is he thriving in this 3-4-3? And do you think he can reach some new levels now?
That's a very interesting question. So, I think Fernandes is not so great start to the season has to do with fatigue. I mean, this is a football player who has played, frankly, an astonishing, if not concerning amount of football for Manchester United in the last 2 or 3 seasons. And while he doesn't break down in the same way that other players have, there are times where he waxes and wanes and he can't quite run in the same way that other players can, understandably. I think that was exacerbated this calendar year playing on this Erik ten Hag system where the press was very, very high, the defence was very, very low, and there was just this huge gap in midfield. And when you're someone like Bruno Fernandes who wants to get close to goal, you're constantly having to hit long balls over the top, trying to get it to a front 3 that wasn't necessarily making the ball stick. And then by the time you got back up top, the ball was lost, so you had to get all the way back to help defend. So he was tired. And I think a lot of these players that if you look at Manchester United going, oh, why are they underperforming? Are they tired? Could be a decent answer. I think in this new 3-4-3, 3-4-2-1, however you want to call it, Amorim says we don't need to get too bogged down.
Yeah, he hates that, doesn't he?
Because it changes when you're in and out of possession. It changes when you're in your own half. It changes when you're in the final third and whatnot. I think Fernandes has shown potential as one of the 10s behind the striker, the dual 10 system. But also that will change based on who the other players in that front 3. I think Fernandes and Rashford behind Zirkzee is a very different front 3 to Fernandes and Mount behind Højlund, because all those players want different things. What was also interesting was after the Ipswich game, Amorim talked about how Fernandes is very good at the long pass, but there are times you want to get him close to goal, which is, I think, something you're going to hear a lot about from Amorim. Amorim keeps talking about physicality and talking about the need for physicality, saying this team isn't quite physical enough. But he's also described the physicality as a link to how the team plays when they have the ball. So essentially, you don't have to run up and down all the time if you're using the ball carefully enough. And I think that's going to be one of the challenges for Fernandes. Fernandes is a player who likes to make things happen, but this sometimes means he tries a risky pass rather than a safe sideways pass in order to keep the ball. This will take time.
Yeah. And I have seen him actually, weirdly, even under Ruud van Nistelrooy, some games, I don't know if you've noticed it, Carl and yourself, Crookie, and you, Angelina, like, he's sometimes going to make a pass or the game's a bit frantic. And I've seen Bruno be the one to calm it down and say, when the crowd's going, oh, Bruno, get it foot. And he goes, no, just let's just. And I'm going, this ain't the Bruno I know.
It was a brilliant bit towards the end of the first half, where Bruno passes it towards Zirkzee, who's sort of close to the halfway line. And as he passes to Zirkzee, he puts his hand out. I say, slow it down. And then Zirkzee hits this left-footed switch pass 30 yards across, and you could see Bruno go, no, I told you to slow it down. And you could also see Bruno go, oh, that's what it feels like.
Yeah,
when someone tells me to slow it down.
Yeah, Bruno of all people telling everyone to slow it down and look after the ball better is quite astonishing. But it is a very visual, contrast for him to be like, actually, I've noticed the difference in him. He's being more patient.
I think what helps is also
go on,
there's just
go on, Carl.
What also helps is there's also more playmakers.
Yeah.
right?
He's not just
Bruno
everything
wants
going
to,
through him, right?
Bruno wants to play fast because that's how he's always done it. Now, there have been spells when there have been other players out there who can offer some form of slowness. So Paul Pogba, Pogba was in the team, Pogba also likes to play fast. So they were all catalysts, go, 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 go. When Christian Eriksen came in his first season at Erik ten Hag, Eriksen appreciates keeping it slow. So those two worked quite well. So now, if you have a setup where it is Fernandes, Casemiro, Mainu, and then you have Ahmad, who's another playmaker, Bruno doesn't have to hit 6 Hollywood passes a game because Ahmad can also do a couple of passes as well. So I think that's also useful. It's not necessarily the shape, but also who's around him and how and what are their responsibilities going forward.
Absolutely. It's definitely something that we're going to see continue to blossom. Crookie, in terms of the striking position, I know, you've been very critical of Marcus Rashford, as have many of us. And we spoke about what it would be like under Amorim, didn't we? Can he get himself going again? Can he get confident again? Can he score goals again? Rasmus Højlund, we've spoken about as well, with work to be done. But goals for him. And now Zirkzee's entered the chat. How are you seeing the striking situation as it stands? Are we still in need of a top drawer number 9? Or are you comfortable with Ruben Amorim that actually between Marcus Rashford, Rasmus and Joshua Zirkzee, he could sort of rotate until he maybe gets what he wants?
I think that's probably a decision that won't be made until the end of the season. I know there's been some talk this week about Victor Gyökeres and United accelerating talks with him ahead of a potential January move. I don't want to shatter anybody's illusions, but I think that's fanciful, to be honest, from a financial perspective. And I've written about it in my notebook on the talkSPORT website this week as well, that Gyökeres certainly is not pushing to leave Sporting in January. I think he's perfectly content to carry on as he is and see what options are there in the summer. So I think it will be rotation up front between now and the end of the season, an opportunity for Zirkzee and Højlund in particular to prove they can be that number 9. Marcus Rashford is a fascinating case study, I think, because if you sit him down, he'll tell you that he prefers to play coming in from the left-hand side. But actually, some of his best games for United have been down the middle, and clearly that's where Amorim sees him to the best of his capability. I think he'll probably play there again against Arsenal on Wednesday night. And we know that Rashford is a streaky player. When he's not scoring, he can go a long time without a goal. When he is scoring, suddenly he can go on runs of purple patches. So let's hope this can continue. And I think, again, he's going to be one of those players, Højlund the same, and Zirkzee, that will benefit. And there's a lot of United players in this squad who just need to be properly coached. And again, it's not beating Erik ten Hag. It's not kicking a man where he's down. But it did look like that squad was undercoached up until Amorim has come in.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I caught up with Rasmus Højlund after his couple of goals against Bodo Glimt, and essentially pretty much credit him with the first goal as well, really, if the keeper didn't wrestle him down. But I asked him, how is he working on trying to battle with defenders versus bringing people into play versus trying to be in the box and get more service? And he said it was a good but difficult question to answer, but he was saying he's been having conversations with the coaches and of just how to understand the league, how to understand the position better, because he is still young, isn't he?
Yeah.
We're waiting for him to understand how to lead that line more effectively, and he's getting there. Another player who's really, really improved, not just under Ruben Amorim, but just this season, Andre Onana, Angelina. He's been absolutely fantastic. Another clean sheet for him, that's 6 in total.
Yep.
Has he got a claim of being the best keeper in the league, one of the best keepers in the league, or is this just momentary, or is it too early to say?
Yeah, after the Bayern Munich game, he took full responsibility. He's not afraid to hold his hands up. I really like the way that he speaks. And there was a stat that I mentioned last week, and I'll mention it again. If you go back to those first 12 Premier League games, I want to make sure I get this right. He's first in post-shot expected goals minus goals allowed. So he's essentially kept out the most shots that he technically on paper shouldn't be saving. And I think we can all agree that some of the saves that he's made have been absolutely fantastic. To have that many clean sheets, especially after how shaky he was, I think he deserves a lot of credit. And I think, for me personally, overall in this season, I think he definitely is in the top 5 Premier League keepers. I think at this moment in time, I think there is an argument for him to be in the top 3 goalkeepers. You look at Alisson is injured, fair enough, still a great goalkeeper. Edison has not been the goalkeeper that we're used to seeing. You look at people, I mean, like Robert Sanchez isn't really coming into it. The Spurs goalkeeper isn't really coming into it. Obviously, you have someone like David Raya, who is a great goalkeeper. Emi Martinez, there's a reason why he's got the accolades that he's got. But I think in this moment in time...
Keller has been really good as well.
Yeah, that's another great one as well. And I think at this moment in time, I think there's an argument for top 3. I think overall in this season, he's definitely in the top 5. And I think to see the way that he's come on in leaps and bounds, it's brilliant, and it's just what Man United fans wanted to see. So yeah, really happy for him.
Yeah, I like what he's done. I mean, I had massive reservations last year. I was really worried.
There were some shaky moments.
Some real bad ones, and he's done really well to sort of compose himself and start showing his true self. I honestly thought that, you see some of the saves we've been talking about, but we've been seeing. My analysis of him last year was, I don't think he has the ability to make top class saves.
Yeah.
That was but recently he has made some really big ones, which is absolutely fantastic. Lastly, Carl, I wanted to ask you about our style of play. And I know Ruben Amorim is very I love the way he speaks about this, because he's saying, please stop over-hyping the 3-4-3, or whether it's 4 at the back, 3 at the back, 5 at the back. It's more about the understanding of the game. And that is what we're seeing with certain players. How have you assessed our style, our identity, this idea that Ruben promised us we would see from day one at Ipswich, which we have? How have you assessed it, and how do you think the players are getting on with it versus how Ruben wants them to take on information?
It's a good idea. So I spoke to not a Premier League. I spoke to a club analysis working for a top club at Europe, and they said it's not necessarily at the cutting edge of football, but what it does do is it gets a lot out of athletic players who are very, very intelligent. So the concern when Amorim arrived was, does Manchester United have the legs and the deceptive dark arts that Sporting have? And that was Everton and Sporting's 4-1 victory over Manchester City. And while the answer isn't a resounding yes at the moment, there is, what we've seen already, an understanding of these players that something is changing, and they need to not do what they were doing a month ago in November, or a month ago in October. So that's good. There are players who I think, if you look at this lineup, will certainly take to this a lot quicker than others. You look at a player like Mason Mount, very, very effective under Thomas Tuchel in a 3-4-2-1. He's definitely going to be a player that will be useful in this. Manuel Ugarte, he knows it under Sporting, so that will be good. There are also players where you're looking at this and going, this might be a bit difficult.
You're in trouble.
So say, let's take a player like Christian Eriksen, a phenomenal football player. I've greatly enjoyed watching him for Tottenham Hotspur for years, but also he's coming to perhaps towards the end of his career. Now, he's not the most natural choice to be one of the central midfielders in the partnership. And also, if you want to put him in one of the number 10 positions behind the centre forward, there's a lot of competition there. Now you've got Ahmad, Garnacho, Rashford, Fernandes, and others. So, yes, I think this is the start of a journey that will probably take seasons, not months. But the promising thing already is that there are 2 or 3 players that you can tell are looking forward to this. I do want to go back to what Crooksy said about Marcus Rashford probably playing up front against Arsenal. I'm not having that.
No.
I think this actually will be a game for, strange enough, Zirkzee. He's probably the best suited to playing against Arsenal centre forwards. Amorim said that the centre forward position is not Rashford's best role after what happened against Ipswich. He said he had to spend a lot of time battling 2 giants. And we know that his hold-up play is not to the same level as Rasmus Højlund, let alone to the same level as Zirkzee. And I think if you are playing up against Saliba and Gabriel, you do need someone who is good wrestling with their back to goal and who can drag those centre-backs out of position. So it might be a game better suited for Zirkzee compared to everyone else, as strange as that might be to say.
Zirkzee, big shout that instead of Rasmus. Maybe Rashford is a 10? Surely Rashford's got to start away at the Emirates. Surely.
I think Rashford.
He's got a very good record. He's got a very good record there.
Left 10. Big thank you there to Carl Anka from The Athletic. Thank you for sharing your insight with us. Next up on the show, it's time to head over to the stat man. It's time to see what Ryan Douglas has to say.